Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Lambert, editor of the LVN newsletter. And this month we are shining the LVN Spotlight on Brad Antici, Director of Strategic Pricing and Analysis at Butler Snow LLP. Brad, thank you very much for letting us shine the spotlight on you.
Yeah, good morning, Greg. Glad to be here.
So, I wanted to just kind of ask you some questions about your involvement with the Legal Value Network and some of the things that you do in your day job. So let's look at your day job. When you are dealing with legal matters, what are some of the main challenges that you run into on a regular basis at your job, and how do you go about just tackling those challenges?
That's a good question, Greg. I think the main challenges that I run into, based on conversations with some of my colleagues, probably not very unique, and those challenges tend to be around how do you manage a law firm like a business, because a lot of times it's management by influence or by trickery, or whatever the case may be, and it's getting that behavior to change, and getting lawyers, the attorneys, to think like business people about running the firm, and that's just different than in the business world, and the way you accomplish those things is a little bit different than in the business world, and so those are the biggest challenges. Really, is working through that mindset and that behavior change with the attorneys.
Have you found over time that that's gotten a little bit easier, or do you think it's kind of maintained the same?
I don't know that it's become any easier. I think that with the attorneys, as with most people, the more that they interact with you and the more that they see, what you're doing and how you're there to help, the firm, I think you build that trust. We call it one champion at a time, right? And that's really how it has to work. When you have a success with one attorney, you hope that they mention that to their next door neighbor, or mention it in a meeting and says, hey, you ought to go talk to Brad and his team, or Thomas and his team, or someone else who they really helped me with this matter or with this client. I think they can help you as well. And for a guy like me that comes in from the business world, where you see a problem and you just fix it, and you fix it globally, that one champion at a time, especially in a firm with several hundred attorneys, you have to be patient, and that's not one of my strongest suits.
Yeah, that's I don't think many of us have that strong suit. So, well, let me kind of flip this over and ask you about what part of the job do you really enjoy? And are there any special achievements or any kind of memorable experiences that you'd like to share with the LVN members?
I don't know that I've done anything notable, any more so than any of my other colleagues, but the most enjoyable part of the job is when you are able to get that champion. Each time you work with an attorney and you have a success, and that attorney then you see it, right? Because that attorney calls you the next time, and they call you the next time, and you become a very trusted advisor to them. And that's the most rewarding part for me personally, because that's why we're here. My role is structured here not so much as a role with any level of authority at all, and I like it that way. My role is designed here to be a counselor and advisor to the attorneys. And I like that because the moment I have a hammer is the moment they stop coming to me for help, right? But if they know that they can come and listen and choose to accept or not accept the advice that I give them, it just keeps that door wide open. But when you do see that success, they appreciate it, and they become just loyalists, right? They just come to you for everything, and that's the most fun for me, because I just generally like helping people. So that's the most rewarding part of this role for me.
Yeah, it helps that success tends to breed more success. So it's if you can get that, like you said, get that champion and get the word out, makes life somewhat easier. Although in most firms, no good deed goes unpunished. So
Right.
It just keeps coming back to you over and over again. So
the downside of that is if you slip, right? If you make one mistake, or if you happen to be wrong, you may never get that person back, right? If you're wrong the first time, there is not a lot of you lose credibility, right? And that's the big challenge in our job.
Well, luckily that's never happened to you, I'm sure. So.
Maybe on a small scale.
So let's get away from work for a bit, and let's talk about how you balance work and life. So outside of work, what kind of hobbies or activities do you like to do that keeps you happy personally, and also kind of helps you keep focus on your job?
Another really good question, and this is going to be anticlimactic because I'm one of the most boring people that I know. My hobbies, at least for the past 20 years, have been, family. We have two boys, and they were very involved in, academics through school, athletics through traveling, athletic teams, their school teams. And so my wife and I love to support the boys, and we're always, present, traveling. We were always there for those events, and just had a ton of fun doing that. So family time is extremely important to me. And now that we just finished our first semester as empty nesters, and I'll tell you, we love our boys, but it took us about 30 seconds to get used to that, and we love it. And, we said, okay, after 20 years, we eat what we want to eat. We eat when we want to eat. We go to bed when we want to go to bed. We watch what we want to watch on TV. We're like, life's great. But our boys they're both at the same school, 2 hours away. So it's very easy for us to, we go up to the games and we tailgate, which is another thing that we like to do, is go to the athletic events at the university, which is my alma mater. So spending a lot of time with family is really what's important to me. And I like to read. I like to read a lot, and there's no specific genre that I like to read. I just like to read. And I do not like ebooks. I'm a page turner.
Yeah.
So I just have, bookshelves just full of books, and, that's what I like to do.
Were you into sports when you were growing up as well?
Yeah, we, I guess where I grew up, there wasn't just a whole lot to do. A lot of farmland around us, and it was small schools, and if you were remotely athletic, generally you played almost every sport just because we needed people to field the teams. But the great thing about that was in sports, huge advocate of sports, but playing sports growing up, because of the small communities where we grew up, you played against the same people for 6 years, all through junior high, all through high school. And then you end up going to college, and you see some of these people, and it's kind of a unique thing where I grew up, and people look at it and go, how do you know that person? It's like, well, we played sports against them for 6 years, and how are you guys so close going to different schools? It's because we didn't have anything else to do. And it's an interesting dynamic, but yeah, I love sports and played sports growing up.
Yeah, and just so people know, we were talking before we jumped on here. We both went to high school in North Mississippi. We're on opposite sides of the state, but so I'm going to throw a challenge out to you. How many people were in your graduating class when you
52.
were senior? I got you beat. I had 49.
Ours was one of the largest classes at the time. So yeah, that's how it happens, right?
Yep. So, well, let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about your work with LVN, and you have a role as the volunteer director for Legal Value Network. And so you're in charge of choosing and bringing in and overseeing volunteers for different groups and projects. Can you talk a little bit about how you make sure that you have a variety of talented people on the volunteer team?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I will answer it as best I can. This will be our first full year with this role. The idea came up last year, and in the midst of juggling that with some other LVN commitments, I kind of eased into the role. And Rainer Frederick, who many of our listeners may know, Rainer's the director of pricing at Shepherd Mullen, has come alongside. We realized very quickly this is a heavy lift. Rainer's going to be working with me in like a co-director role. And, the great thing about LVN is we have a lot of people who want to be involved. It's kind of the hallmark of our community. For me personally, LVN was incredibly valuable, or at least the people that make up LVN now, incredibly valuable to me when I started my career, 12 years ago in legal, helping me and guiding me, and I'll be forever grateful for that. So what we want to do is make sure that we continue that that embrace of people who want to serve. And, we're learning things like, there's certain hierarchies, right? To put people on certain committees, we like for them to have had some experience or some example of leadership, maybe in an earlier committee, or especially when you're talking about the conference, right? That's our big event every year. We want to make sure that those conference subcommittees have people who have somewhat of a proven track record within LVN. So, we have to look at those sorts of things. Sometimes we have a gap that there's not a clear need to fill. There's not a clear individual available to fill that gap. So we have to be really creative with that. But what we look for are people who are qualified to serve in the capacity that they're serving. Number two, they have shown an interest and a willingness to participate. And when they have been on a committee, that they are there, they are present, they're plugged in. They're not just looking to say, oh, I was on this committee so I can put it on my resume. So actual involvement is very important for us. And then, the diversity of skill sets, luckily just the community is diverse, so that makes it very easy when you're choosing people. And we've got just a talented group of people. Our ecosystem, if you will. There's just tons and tons of great people. So that's not overly complicated. The hardest part is having many, many, many more people that want to serve than we have available spots in our current setup. And one of the things that Rainer and I would like to look at this year is really looking for even small opportunities. Like this is a very niche need that we have. Let's get 5 or 6 volunteers to do this. It's a very discreet, once a year. It's a small lift, but it's an opportunity for somebody to see part of LVN or part of a committee or part of the conference, and we'd like to get them plugged in just to give them a taste. We don't want a lot of people sitting on the sidelines.
It sounds like a good plan. So I'm looking forward to how you get that worked out this year. So,
yeah.
Well, Brad Antici from Butler Snow, I want to thank you very much again for coming in this morning and letting us shine the spotlight on you.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Had a great time.